This video is going to cover the Windows Direct Copy upgrade. This process requires having two drives attached to your Windows system at the same time. This requires two SATA to USB adapters or a machine that can attach two SATA drives at the same time. For this procedure, you'll need a working standard sized 500 gigabyte, 1 terabyte, or 2 terabyte drive. This is the only process where the drive that you're going to be copying to can be standard or a non-standard size drive. In this particular video, I'll be doing a non-standard size drive. However, if you only have one SATA to USB adapter available, you might want to check out my other video which covers the Windows backup and restore upgrade process, and I'll link that here. So let's get on with the process. Okay, just one more point I wanted to make really quick. In the case of the direct copy and backup and restore copy Windows processes, I wanted to mention that you have the ability to increase the size of your drive, but also decrease. So you can just as easily go from 500 gigabyte to 2 terabyte as you can from 2 terabyte to 500 gigabyte. The one thing to note here, though, is that when decreasing drive sizes, you have to be sure that user content or the games that you have installed on your 2 terabyte drive are less than the drive that you're going to be going to. So in this case, if we were going from 2 terabyte to 500 gigabyte, we'd want to make sure our games are no larger than 365 gigabytes. If they are, then you want to use an external drive to temporarily move your games from your internal drive to your external drive. Now, even if you aren't going to a smaller drive, it may make sense to move your games from user content to an external drive anyways to speed up the copy process, either when using a direct copy or the backup and restore method. For today's example, we have the older model Xbox One, but this process will work just the same on an S and an X model. In fact, all three models use the exact same hard drive structure and the same OS, so they all behave the same. For this particular process, we're going to be upgrading this 2 terabyte SSHD drive. This is the exact same drive we built in a prior video where we built a 2 terabyte drive from scratch. I'll link that video here. Now for this process, we're going to actually go back to our 5 terabyte drive. I have some older videos where I originally upgraded the system to a 5 terabyte drive, and soon thereafter I learned that you couldn't utilize as much space as you would have liked to on a 5 terabyte drive. In fact, you really can't utilize any more than an additional 285 gigabytes over a 2 terabyte drive. In either case, we're going to use this 5 terabyte drive as our example today and show you how the new 7.0 script will actually limit the largest size that you can use for the user content partition. So to get both of these drives attached, we're going to be using our SATA adapters here. But prior to doing that, let me just show you this drive in action so you can see that this drive is actually functioning. For this process, it's really important that the drive that you're copying from is a working drive, particularly if you're going to a non-standard size drive. If you're going to a standard size drive, there's a little more leeway there. If something goes wrong, you can just rebuild the drive you swap to. But that sort of loses the point of this video, which is that when you're doing a direct copy, you're taking all your games, your profiles, and any system settings from this drive and putting it onto the new drive without having to re-download anything or re-add your account or having to reset the system. So let's get the system booted up, and I can just show you the existing drive size and information. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is go into our settings. And look at our storage. And as you can see, this is a 1.6 terabyte drive, which is what you would expect to see for the available space on a 2 terabyte drive. Now the result of this process, when we upgrade to this 5 terabyte drive, we should actually have a 1.9 terabyte drive, which is the absolute maximum amount of space that you can use on a larger drive. And again, that's a gain of about 285 gigabytes. Now, when you do make a non-standard larger drive, the one major caveat is that you cannot reset this drive. If you do reset the drive, it's possible that everything will come back okay. However, it'll be shrunk down to 1.6 terabytes again. Not the end of the world, but just something you should be aware of. This is the only video where I'm going to show you creating a non-standard drive going forward. It's not something I heavily promote people to do. I think you should just stick to using the standard 500 gigabyte, 1 terabyte, or 2 terabyte sizes instead. Okay, the first thing we're going to be wanting to do is hook up our target drive. This is the drive we're going to be copying our data to from the existing working source drive. So we're going to use one of our USB to SATA adapters here. And we hook this up. Now, on the Windows side of things, we're going to want to open up Disk Manager. So we're going to type in diskmgmt.msc and hit enter. Okay, this way when we attach our target drive, we'll be able to see it loading into the system. I have this just off camera here, so we'll hook this up first. Okay, and there's the drive itself. So let's close our camera here temporarily. We'll come back to that. And as you can see, our target drive is already pre-formatted. In fact, it's already formatted as an Xbox One drive. Now, it's very important in this process when we're going to be attaching two Xbox One drives to the same Windows system that you do not attach two Xbox One drives at the same time. Because if you do, I'll show you what happens here. So let's bring our camera up really quick again. And what we're going to do is take out our source drive. And this is the drive we wanted to attach second anyways. But this drive will also be formatted as Xbox One. So I just want to show you what happens when you hook up two Xbox One drives to the same Windows system. Okay, and you can see instantly there we have an offline status. And if we click this little information button here, it says the disk is offline because it has a signature collision with another disk that is online. And what that more or less means is you have two disks with the same GUID value. So essentially Windows cannot tell the difference between these two disks. They are identical in its eyes, even though physically they're two different size disks. Now, to prevent this, we want to unformat or reformat our disk 3 drive before reconnecting our disk 4 drive. So we're going to come over here and disconnect our disk 4. Okay, and then we're going to disconnect it. And again, disk 4 is going to be our source drive. And we'll just put that aside here. Okay, now to actually perform this process, we're going to want to get a hold of the Xbox One hdd-master-7.zip file. So this is the file that I have on FileTrip, and I include a link for it in the description of this video. The other location that you can get this file from is a Google Drive link, which is also included in this video. And basically you can right click this and download it, and you can do a save file. The same's true from FileTrip. You just say download the file, and in this case I've downloaded the file to our desktop here. And what we're going to want to do is use something like 7-zip, open archive, and then we would just extract it. In this case, I would extract it to the desktop. I've already done that, so I'm going to skip that step, and that's what is right here. Now, contained within this directory is both Linux scripts and Windows scripts. So in our particular case, we're going to want to be running this guy right here. And if you're looking for more information about how to use this, aside from my video here, there's a readme_windows.txt file included as well. All the other files contained here are all a bunch of helper programs for this script here. So I'm going to show you the way I use the script, and it's the way that you should open the script as well. There are a few different methods for running .bat files, but the method I'm going to show you here is the one I use most often and will not close when the script is actually completed running. If I directly ran the script, which you can do, it will, when the script itself is done, it'll just close the window entirely, and you won't be able to go back and view the history of what the script had done. So what I suggest doing is right-clicking the Start menu, select Windows PowerShell Admin, answer yes that you want to run this program, and we want to do a cd $env : and then user profile, all one word. Here we're going to want to do a cd, and we want to go to our desktop, so start typing desktop, hit tab, and we want to go to the Xbox folder, so type XB, hit tab again till you get to the Xbox One hdd-master directory, and we're going to go one more into the Win directory. And if you want to see the contents of this directory or ensure that we're in the proper directory, you can type in the dir command, and there is our create Xbox drive.bat. So here we're going to want to type create, or start to type create, hit tab, and hit enter. Now what I find is helpful is to keep the disk management program open here on the side. That way you can actually see the changes happening to your drive. Now the reason I left this 5 terabyte drive formatted as an Xbox One drive is because I wanted to show you an extra step that you should probably take whenever you're doing this upgrade process, which is we're going to want to clean up the disk. The disk that you might be upgrading to maybe came from a PC or a Mac, or from a laptop or a desktop. Maybe it's a disk that you're actually reusing. So it makes a lot of sense to first completely format the drive. The script itself will make an attempt to do that, but in this particular case, since we can't have 2 Xbox One drives attached at the same time, we're going to have to take an extra step here. Now, again, also noting with the 7.0 script, it does check to see if the drive letters that are required for this process are free. This is the one case when you're doing a direct drive copy-to-copy process that you will need all 10 drive letters available to you. So you can see right now the HIJKL, this is actually the drive that we're going to be copying to, or our target drive. And you can see they're all free. This is a good thing. The U through Y letters are for our Xbox One drive or our source drive. So in this particular case, it's a little confused because it thinks our source is the drive we're going to want to copy to, which is why we're going to do the steps going forward here. Okay, so what we're going to do is press any key. And we're going to want to select the G option here. We want to wipe the drive of all partitions and GUID values. This will eliminate the conflict we're having with our source drive. So G. And we want to select disk 3. And it's going to warn us that all the contents of the drive will be erased. That's okay. We're going to hit Y here. And there you go. It's that fast. So you can see already our disk 3 is completely wiped. So we're going to press the key one more time. Now again, this is why I like to open the command shell first and then drill down to our create Xbox drive.bat script, because when the script is over, it's that much easier to run multiple times. We just basically hit the up arrow there and we can run the script again. So at this point, we have our target drive cleaned up. So we can reattach our source drive. So let's bring up our camera again here. And we are going to attach our source drive here, our 2 terabyte SSHD. We should see the result of that here. And there we go. There's our disk 4. Now you can see this time the disk is online. It's not offline as it was before. Okay, I figured that was important to point out to you. Okay, now that we have everything attached, let's shut off the camera. And let's actually start the copy process here. So in this case, we're going to want to copy disk 4 to disk 3. And the script will walk us through that process. So let's run the create Xbox drive.bat script again. Press enter. And basically we have the same drive free status as before. That should soon change. So we're going to press any key. Now this time we want to select the B option. The replace, upgrade, keeping original drive data. So press B, enter. And it's going to ask what our source drive is. So our source drive in this case is 4. And just in case our disk 4 didn't have the right letters, it just went through and made sure all the proper letters were attached. Now it's asking for the target drive. In this case, our target drive is disk 3. And again, it's warning us that our disk 3 will be erased. That's okay. Say yes. Now this will differ depending on what you're upgrading to. In this example, I'm going to select the F option. I'm going to auto size a non-standard drive with the 2 terabyte disk GUID. What that should mean is it's going to use the most space possible, and if you do have to reset the drive in the future, it's going to reset it as a 2 terabyte drive. So basically you're going to lose whatever additional space you had and be then limited to 1,662 gigabytes again. So if you are going to be going to a 500 gigabyte SSD, for example, you would select the A option here. If you're going to a 1 terabyte SSHD, you'd pick the B option. If you're going to a 2 terabyte SSHD, you'd select the C option. If you're doing something in between, you'd be using the D, E, and F options. So in our particular case, again, we're going to be using a 5 terabyte drive. We're going to try to use the most space possible. And so you can see, I've noted here on all these auto size options that the maximum that we're going to get out of user content, or the maximum available space we're going to get, is 1,947 gigabytes. Now the main reason for that maximum is because we had discovered that the Xbox One hardware, and this is true for the OG, the S, and the X model, is incapable of properly handling a partition size on the internal drive. This doesn't include the external drives, but on internal drives cannot be any larger than 2 terabytes in size. In fact, if we made user content, so here's our user content partition here, it's partition 2. If we made it any larger than 1948, we made it 1947 just to be safe. We just left off an extra gigabyte, or left an extra gigabyte free on the end of the disk. Now the reason this is 100 gigabytes less than going to a full 2 terabytes or a full 2048 gigabytes is because if we add up the other 4 partitions on the disk, we have 41, 81, 93, 100 gigabytes. So the other 4 partitions all total 100 gigabytes. If we were to make user content 2048 or 2048 gigabytes in size, it would actually make it so these remaining 3 partitions couldn't be seen by the Xbox One. Because again, the Xbox One hardware cannot handle larger than 2 terabyte internal partitions. Okay, I hope that I've explained that enough. I just really want to be clear for anyone wanting to upgrade their Xbox One drive what the limitations are and why they are what they are. I've actually done several videos on the past on this, so if you have any more interest in looking into this whole internal drive size limitation thing, I'll have a bunch of videos on my channel, and I'll try to link you to the most relevant video here. Okay, so let's get on with the actual upgrade process here. So for our 5 terabyte drive, we're going to want to select the F option. Now you can see there that the script actually noticed that we're using a larger than 2 terabyte drive, so it's limiting user content to 1.9 terabytes. That's, again, what this is referring to here. So it's done all the preparation work on our target drive, and it's now ready to copy our source drive's content, or our working Xbox One drive's content, to our new drive. Now, most people aren't going to care about this, but let me just show you really quick what's actually going on here. So here's our disk 4. This is our source drive, and now this is our newly formatted target drive. So you can see, first off, here's our H through L drive letters, and instead of using the usual names, temp content, user content, system support, it added a D in front, and D basically stands for dupe, or duplicate partition. Now we use these slightly different labels because Windows struggles a bit with partition labels that are the same, but also we're using different GUID values than the Xbox One normally uses while we're copying our data from source to target. The reason I'm showing you this is after we're done copying the data, we're going to need to do one extra step, which will be to turn these labels into proper labels and GUIDs, which you can't see here, into the proper GUID values. And we're going to do that with our source drive disconnected. So what we're going to want to do is let the script continue and copy our data from the source to the target. So for this question here, we're just going to say yes. So we're just going to let this process run out, and we'll come back when it's complete. Okay, so there we go. All of our data is copied. So at this point, we can press any key. And now that we have all our data copied, we don't need our source drive anymore. So that's going to be the first thing we're going to remove. So we want to safely eject our second drive, or our disk 4 drive here. And you can see it has all the proper names. That's the one we want to remove first. Okay. Now I should have pointed this out in the beginning. I did make it a point to attach our target drive first. The main reason for that is when we run the next part of the script, it needs to be able to properly get at disk 3. And the way I do the drive counting and the cancel option, you'll see when we run through the script the next time that the cancel option on the disk selection will be the number 4. And that's just basically counting up the number of disks and then adding 1 to it to pick out the cancel selection. So if we had a hole, so if we basically had our source drive as disk 3 and then removed it, we'd have no disk 3 but a disk 4, and it would count up the drives, and the disk forward that we'd want to select would also be the cancel selection. Okay, so let's get back to it. With our source drive disconnected, we're going to want to rerun our script for a third time. And you can see this time it actually found driver letters H through L, and now U through Y are free, which is not something you'll see often running this script. So we're going to want to press any key to continue. And instead of the B option, we want to use the C option, which is to fix the GUID values without formatting the drive. So we'll pick C, press enter, and then it's going to want you to select your target drive. This is what I was telling you about. We want to select 3 here, and 4 is cancel. It's asking us the partition layout, so this would change the disk GUID, which is the top item here, depending on which option we select. We had already said earlier that we want to use the F option, so we want to do a non-standard size with a 2 terabyte disk GUID, but if you're selecting one of the standard sizes here, select that same size that you selected earlier when you did the B option. Okay, so in our case we're going to press F here, but you pick the appropriate letter for the drive that you're creating. Okay, so now we can see that all of our partitions are named correctly. Well, there's one exception here, so let's just do a quick action refresh just to be sure that we're looking at the right stuff. Yeah, there you go. But we can see here by our script output that we got everything we were looking for. All the partitions are named correctly, and our disk GUID is for the auto size 2 TB selection. Now, I've actually shown in earlier videos that if you go into where you unzip the Xbox One hdd-master directory, and then go into the Win folder, and then open up your readme_windows.txt file. From here, you can scroll down to, I believe it's step 6. Yes, there it is. And then you can double check that the GUID values that you see here match up with what they're expected to be in the script. So you can see, since we went with a 2 terabyte size, all these match up exactly. But if you selected the 500 gigabyte or the 1 terabyte option, then this first line here would match with one of these two instead. So we can confirm that everything looks fine there. So we're going to press any key. And at this point, we're ready to put our 5 terabyte drive into our Xbox One. Okay, so let's go to our camera view here. And what we're going to want to do here is eject our 5 terabyte drive. Now, sometimes we'll get this error. I'm not exactly sure the quickest way to solve it. Sometimes it's as simple as closing our disk management here, so we'll try that first. If that doesn't work, I'll show you another method. Okay, so it's still complaining, so let's exit out our script here. Maybe that process is holding on to the drive. Okay, still no luck. So the cleanest method for getting your drive ejected is to reopen disk management here. So again, start run disk mgmt.msc. And what we're going to do is go to our disk 3, right click it, and say offline. And what this will actually do is make it so none of the partitions are attached to a drive letter anymore. Now if we go back to our eject here, we see that it safely removes. So that's just a quick tip. It doesn't happen consistently, but it does happen from time to time. So at this point, we can actually fully disconnect our 5 terabyte drive from our PC. And we're going to want to throw this into our Xbox One. So let's bring up our capture video here so you can see this starting up. So if the copy process was successful, we should be able to boot up directly from this drive and see a difference in the actual drive size in the settings menu. So here you go. So let's start this up. Okay, so we can see that the system started up okay. So let's now go into our settings menu, which I can't see. There we go. Go to system storage, and you can see that we have 1.8 terabytes of 1.9 free. So you can see we've increased our disk size by 285 gigabytes, which is not a small amount of space. And it's the most space we can use with our 5 terabyte drive here when we're using it as an internal drive. Okay, so the final test will be to actually load a game again. So let's do that. Let's load up our Sega Vintage collection here. Okay, so there you have it. There is our direct copy upgrade process. So again, it's worth mentioning, you can go from anything here. You could go from a standard 500, 1 terabyte, or 2 terabyte drive to a standard 500 gigabyte, 1 terabyte, or 2 terabyte drive that's either an HDD, an SSD, or an SSHD. And you can even go to non-standard sizes, such as this 5 terabyte drive here, that we were able to take advantage of an additional 285 gigabytes of space. So that should do it for this video. I'm going to start my next video right away here, which is, instead of a direct copy, it's the backup and restore process, which only requires that you have just one SATA to USB adapter, and then of course 2 drives. We're going to hook up our source drive, and we're going to back it up to our local Windows computer, and then we're going to hook up our target drive and restore the data that we copied to our local Windows drive to that target drive. Okay, so if that interests you, then check that video out as well. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in a future video.